All right, hi everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the Carvel Office Hours. If you're tuning in from home, we encourage you to attend these live. We meet every second and fourth Thursday of the month at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. If you aren't able to attend the office hours, we also have community meetings, and those are every Monday at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. The office hours in particular is just an opportunity for you to bring anything up with the team that you need more in-depth help on, or have a particular discussion topic you want the maintainers to go over. And the community meeting is another opportunity for that, with more focus on what the team is currently working on. If you have anything you would just wish to discuss today, please add that down here in the discussion topics, or if you have anything you need help with, down here below in the open questions, help needed. When you attend the meetings, be sure to read and abide by our code of conduct. And just a reminder, these are being recorded, so they are uploaded to our YouTube playlist for everyone to consume. Also, while you're attending, please add your name and any company or organization that you are representing, so that we can keep track of who from the community is attending these, and we can, keep those communication channels open with each other. All right, today discussion topics. We are hiring. We have this particular returnship opportunity for working with the Carvel team. And we also have one for a member of the technical staff. Aaron, do you want to go over these two particular items? Do a call out for some
Yeah,
staff.
I guess like one thing I'll call out for the returnship is that is part of a specific program that we're running here at VMware. And the idea is targeting folks that have engineering experience, like 5 years or so of experience, but have been out of the workforce for the past couple of years. So really focused on like folks that have been doing caretaking and are looking to get back into the workforce. So the returnship is an 18-week, internship like thing. And the idea is, if that goes well, it would likely turn into a full-time role. The other role, software engineer, that's also just a regular opening, not part of any particular program. And then I was actually about to add a third item here, which we do still have an opening for a senior engineer role in India. So I'll be sure to add a link to that opening.
Great, thanks, Aaron. And would you be the hiring manager for those two roles, and now the third role as well?
The first two, but not the third, not the senior engineer role.
Okay. All right, moving on to the next item, bringing up something that we've been discussing in a recent community meeting, as well as office hours that we had last time. We have the GitHub issue triage proposal, how we're looking to manage our issue triage processes. John, do you want to go over this?
Yeah, thanks, Nancy. So let's see, maybe if I shared my screen, there's a couple of tabs I wanted to go over. That's okay. 1 second. Get the right one. Can you see my screen? There's that doc. Okay, cool. So yeah, last we left off with this, we had gone through the label definitions and issue states, and these are like talking about how stuff would flow through. One thing we could do is there's been a number of conversations / questions in the document, so some of it we can just sort of bring that real time. So that's one piece. The other is looking at our Zen Hub board with no issues on here, this is what it looks like, which actually includes definitions of these swim lanes, which the observant reader would notice that the first set of these actually matches perfectly with the names of these issue states, and that's on purpose. So that's another view to kind of look at this as we're trying to figure out what means what, where. Another view is the pile of issues. So this is how somebody who's not using ZenHub would see it. And then finally, just to kind of round it out, here's an example of like, this is currently, this is a sketch. This isn't not visible on our GitHub per se, but there's a way of like creating something that's like a ZenHub. It's GitHub projects, and you can move stuff in this sort of like Kanban board. So anyway, so I thought what would be valuable, sorry, and then there was one more thing that I thought was useful is between last time and now, we've actually done a couple of rounds of issue triaging. And so folks have made an attempt at working within that. Thought it'd be useful maybe to just start with that, to start with folks who have been doing the community triage, talking about how clear this is or not, like how did it go? So yeah, I think I'll just sort of open that up, like what you did and all that. Anybody want to share their experience?
Yeah, I can start off. I've done the triage for 2 days in the last 2 weeks. And during those days, my process is generally that I go to the ZenHub board and I go to the Carvel accepted lane here, and I read through all the issues in that lane, and I attempt to create some kind of acceptance criteria for it. So if it's in that Carvel accepted lane, then I know that it's something that's been looked at by a reviewer of that tool, and that they know that this is something that we may want to look at further in the future, and that is like ready for possibly ready for development by someone from the community if that's something that a community member wanted to push through. So giving that acceptance criteria is vital for that community member if they have submitted an issue that they want to work on, and have that like kind of stamp of approval from the maintainers. So a couple of the pain points that I've experienced, I would start there, is one of them is if we're waiting for more examples. I think one example of that might be the key matcher path one for K-build. And so at the bottom of this one, there's a comment that says, let's kind of wait for more examples for this before we make like a decision. We do have a possible solution, but there was a workaround for the problem that was being experienced. So we're not seeing any in the wild examples of we need this capability in K-build, or we need this functionality in K-build, but we did come up with an idea of one way to address this as an enhancement. So I didn't feel comfortable drafting acceptance criteria for this. Yeah, and then a couple of them are labeled with discussion. Sometimes it feels like we're awaiting more replies. And then in the GitHub triage document, the proposal document at the bottom in process steps, or maybe yeah, near the middle, it says to like put the acceptance criteria and wait for a thumbs up, or if it's been a week, just move it to the next column. And by putting the acceptance criteria through an edit at the top of a comment that already exists, it's hard to tell if a new thumbs up has come in towards that comment. So just a little bit of ambiguity there that hasn't, I think, been fully fleshed out.
So where are we describing that in here? It's like wait a week. Here we go. Give it if a thumbs up is given within a week, should be moved. That's interesting. Does anybody remember the context around what that delay would be about?
I think if a thumbs up was given or a week has passed, like I give you a week to thumbs up, and if not, then we move it along anyways. That's what I'm reading there. Is that what you guys are seeing?
Yeah. Does anybody remember what the rationale was behind sort of this automatic time-based approval or moving it along?
No.
How does that
Maybe
strike?
from some of
Yeah,
the others that are aren't on the call might be
right.
able to add.
Yeah,
Maybe it
I don't know how,
was
I don't know how to make,
arbitrary.
yeah, yeah, it's kind of landing that way for me. I'm not sure why why we would decide that, okay, well, a week later, it's now, yeah, I feel like something moves from a lane because new information has arrived, and that's what changes its state rather than time. Is that, yeah, I see a lot of nodding. So, all right, so maybe what we could do here is just say, okay, that's a great call, thanks, Garrett. It also means that like you'd have to put the acceptance criteria in a comment so that somebody could thumb up that comment and it's not confused with a thumbs up or down of the issue itself.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm, interesting. And so who would be giving this thumbs up? Approve or review of the accepted would ensure that criteria, is that what the implication is, that this gets approved?
I think so. Like when I added acceptance criteria, I didn't add, like if it was YTT, I didn't at you, John, or if it was cap, I didn't at Dimitri.
Uh-huh.
Felt like they would see the email update or the GitHub update notification. And then if this is on your guys's routine as well, then you'd see an update.
Hmm.
I don't know if that's a bad assumption.
Yeah. I tend to, I've been using the notifications, like GitHub notifications, try and keep up on stuff. So if you make any kind of edit, I'll see it.
Okay.
Personally, would we, do we need approver reviewer to thumbs up acceptance criteria? What might they know that somebody who wrote the acceptance criteria wouldn't know?
I could see a world where the comments are misinterpreted, and so the acceptance criteria doesn't align with what the comment said.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't feel like personally, I would try not to write acceptance criteria for something I don't feel like I have a great grasp on. So I would feel if I put acceptance criteria on a story, I feel like it doesn't really need the thumbs up. Maybe we'll get a comment from a community member if it is confusing, and that would be a signal.
Yeah, so I wonder, so maybe Carrie, did you have some thoughts around that? I'm just trying to not miss the comment. Go ahead.
No, pretty much what Garrett said too. Like I wouldn't probably write acceptance criteria if I didn't feel like it captured the issue. And if I felt like I needed someone to give a second opinion on it, I could pull in a reviewer. But I don't think it needs to happen every time.
Does that capture what you were thinking, Garrett? Okay. Yeah, and frankly, like from what I saw, like the stuff that was going in there was like top notch, like really good acceptance criteria, very thoughtful, seemed like good coverage, just kind of poking at it. So I don't know. I feel like that piece is starting to work. Okay. I felt like there was other stuff you were gonna mention, Garrett.
Yeah, was gonna say maybe some of the positive things since I've hit some of the points. Uh, some of the positive things is that it's not overwhelming as it used to feel. Um, there is often enough context to like really immerse myself in a concept that maybe I wasn't so familiar with in the past, and it's both provided some good opportunities for me to learn and some areas to like just to be like uncovered, like the veil has been lifted in this like certain area of YTT that was maybe somewhat interesting but scary at first. So it feels much more manageable, and no matter how much progress like I make in one of those triage days, it doesn't feel like it was unproductive. So I was a little worried about that as well.
Yeah, that's been the case in the past, hasn't it? Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Oh, that's great to hear. And also, it's more satisfying. Like on a personal level, it's like you say, like at the end of the day, you feel productive. It's important.
Mhm.
What was the first thing you were talking about? You said it was like further, what was it? There was one item you had
Here's
mentioned.
the weak one, the one that you had
Oh,
made the
oh,
comment.
okay. All right. Okay. So we got that. Okay, great. Cool. Anything else about folks' experience? Is there more, Garrett, that you're thinking? Carrie, did you have any feedback or reflections yet on this stuff?
One thing I've been able to do a couple of times since being on this role is triage bugs.
Mm.
And well, pretty much every time I do this role, I go immediately to the triage document and like remind myself what it is that I'm supposed to do. And it's been really clear. So that's really helpful for me because things are changing and it's nice to see exactly, step by step what I'm supposed to do. And when triaging bugs, it feels very straightforward. Like try to replicate the issue, try to get any more information if it's needed, add these specific labels, and it feels really manageable and like I'm not wasting cycles, trying to maybe triage an issue or feature that doesn't have enough information like I used to in the previous process. It's pretty well explained. So overall, that's been a good experience.
Okay, great. And are there, that's really good to hear that this is useful and not just a document for document's sake, but like a working document. That's what I'm hearing. Are there any parts in particular that you like or you wish were different, or like as we continue to refine this, is things we should make better here? Like where does it start for you? Do you come here to this state or do you go to the triage a bug or?
I think I start here
Okay.
and first triage bugs. And then if there are none, then I go to the second process, Carvel accepted. I look
Oh,
for
I see.
those.
And then is what's here enough or do you jump down to the link?
I jump down to the link.
Okay. That's nice.
Yeah, it's like
I
boom, boom,
see.
boom. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah. Yeah. Just do this thing. Okay, cool. Okay. So that I'm hearing like that helps like load up in your head of like, oh yeah, that's right, this process. And so it's sort of less times figuring out what to do and more of just doing it.
Yep. Just read it once at the beginning of the day, and then
Yeah.
I don't have to come back to it or wonder.
Okay. Okay. Cool. And then the other one was the Carvel accepted one.
Yeah. I haven't done as many Carvel accepted issues. One thing I did find myself doing is wasting a lot of time reading through the comments on an issue, only to find that the end was either like really clear and didn't need acceptance criteria, or the acceptance criteria was already there, which if it was already there, that was a quick fix. The next issue, I just scrolled all the way to the bottom and checked. But it did happen a couple of times where I spent time reading through the whole issue and then ended up not needing to do anything about it. I think that corresponds to what we have with we were talking about earlier about waiting 1 week to get approval or like a thumbs up on acceptance criteria. So this issue was hanging out in the Carvel accepted column. It already had acceptance criteria. We were waiting for someone to like approve that acceptance criteria.
I see.
And as the community role, I went in here and was like, oh, it's in the Carvel accepted column. It must need attention.
I see. Okay. So if we end up like not saying that you need to wait a week or even get any kind of approval or whatever, that would help fix that issue of like, hey, if I added acceptance criteria, then it means that I'll put it either in unprioritized or prioritized backlog. Which like,
Right.
is this happening to you? Like since I upgraded to Big Sur, like now my fonts here are always black. Is anybody else having that experience? Like this is supposedly white and it won't display as white.
I don't know about that.
You're smirking, Carrie. Yeah, it's like white. It's I don't know. Anyway, okay. Okay, cool. So it sounds like that would be addressed through that. Okay. And then do you also like click down in here and like remind yourself about this? Is this useful?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a different section that I look at. Um, maybe not. I don't read the elaborate a feature section.
Okay, okay. Workflow considerations. Okay. I think it's a little fuzzy. All right.
Yeah, that's my experience. Like overall, I think it's an improvement. But I haven't worked in this role very many times, so I also, I'm interested to see how it goes from here.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. All right. Well, then the next thing that occurs to me, unless somebody has commentary about what we just talked about.
Yeah, I have one thing.
Yeah.
I think that in the future, the community pair could also triage duplicates. I'm not really sure how that would be easily identified at all. But that just does seem like something that's certainly within the power of someone who's doing the community pair role.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It would just cause a lot of filtering for them that they wouldn't have to do otherwise. Like if you just added it to the list of responsibilities.
It's like this. Like when it's a new issue.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So this would be like someone submits a bug and that issue already exists. This would be like labeling it as a duplicate.
Yeah, that's what I would see it like, maybe labeling it, closing it, saying like, hey, just please reply in this issue. And if you really don't think it's a duplicate, we can reopen and continue the discussion here, but
Yeah, that totally makes sense. I think even that could be expanded to say like, change the label of any issue that isn't appropriate. Like if somebody
You mean
submits a
just
bug
broadly?
and it should be an enhancement, you should change the label, right? I think it's similar to duplicates.
Yeah, maybe this is, I'm hearing two things there. One is that like, we all have like the ability to garden this garden together. Like, and you see something wrong, you fix it. Like we're all there. We're all like at that point. And then the other thing I heard was that like it might be helpful. I think this is what I was hearing from you, Garrett, is like it might be helpful to have a call out that specifically reminds you like, oh, you're doing a community pair, like go to triage a bug, and then one possible outcome is that it's a duplicate. Like it isn't always going to be you can reproduce
yeah.
it, right? Like there might be like we might learn interesting ways to share with each other on how you can identify a duplicate, for example. So there might
Mhm.
be like an overall process that could speed that part. The sooner we catch those, the sooner those conversations get concentrated on a single issue, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Mark it as duplicate, close it, and then also what are ways that people can quickly identify duplicates? Error messages. What are ways that you might do that?
I mean, obviously searching.
Right.
FAQ. Like I've noticed that sometimes I'll look through the FAQ in our docs.
Ooh. Nice. Okay. Well, we can elaborate that later.
Following our hunches.
Yeah, seriously.
Seriously.
Yeah, some of it's is up in the wetware, right? Yeah. Okay. That's a great one. Great call out, Garrett. Okay, we'll elaborate on this outside this meeting. That's nice to.
So while we're kind of talking about this community pair item, I'm thinking in the broader community, thinking about it being an open source project. Eventually, hopefully we'll get outside contributors, people who do want to help with triaging, maybe even eventually become maintainers. And I'm curious as to how, well, one, describe or have some sort of description of what a community pair is. It doesn't seem like that's here. I know that we know what that is, but maybe outside of us is unsure of what we mean by what is a community pair, and how that's assigned each week. And two, if someone is outside of VMware and is interested in contributing, how do they actually work with the community pair on helping out? Is that something like when we're in the public Carvel channel, we say these are the community pairs for the day, for the week? If you're interested, reach out to them.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I don't think we broadcast that right now, but that's a great idea.
Yeah, I feel like I missed something just there, Nancy, to write down in here to elaborate on.
So whoever is the community peer for that day or for that week to identify themselves in the public Carvel channel, and so that folks know to reach out to them if they're interested in helping out with any
I
triaging.
see. Like, I don't know, pairing on it?
Exactly. So
It's
they
insane.
can be part of that.
What the? You mean like learning how to do a thing by working with somebody who's done it before? That's insane.
Novel idea.
Pairing even. Love this. Aaron, did you have any particular thoughts around that? I'm just drawing you in.
No, I'm mainly just observing here. I guess like one thing I have noticed in other communities is that like they have essentially assigned or someone volunteered to be like the triager of that week. And that has been handed off in like community meetings. Not really suggesting we do that, but mainly just sharing that that is a practice that I've observed.
Cool, cool. This is good. All right. Anything else? Otherwise, I was gonna kind of sort of go down the comments and see if there's stuff that we can pull up together. I think there's a couple conversations here that are worth hitting on. Okay. Just chime in. One piece here is Aaron making sure that whatever we end up doing here, we start to move these into the contributing markdown. I think it's like currently in governance. We'll like move that into the contributing markdown in the main repos. Okay. So that's where this will sort of ultimately end up. Okay. This being the description. Okay.
And also, I'll defer to Nancy for organizing all these things properly.
One thing I was going to just ask, I zoned out for a split second, but I don't know if you just said this. When is the when is like that? When do you feel like you're at a point where this can be moved to the contributing markdown?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think right now we're just sort of using a Google Doc. Like it started out as a proposal and then we like recycled that. We're recycling the bits and now it's turning into like this process definition doc, sort of evolving its way. I feel like if we can, it's quite editable and highly collaborative here in this format. So maybe when we get the feeling that things are sort of settling out, hitting some kind of steady state, we're not making huge edits, then which feels like we're getting close to that, then that might be a good time to sort of pull the trigger and make this all marked down.
Okay.
Good question. Yeah. Okay. Let's see, this one in particular was about the can be replicated. So there was a conversation here asking about whether or not this was useful or maybe a duplicate, especially with respect to bugs. Like couldn't Carvel accepted mean that the bug was duplicated? I wish Daniel was here, but he, this basically said be nice to know whether or not a bug is reproduced, but would we actually accept it without trying to reproduce it?
Yeah, to me, I wonder if there's overlap with Ready for Dev. Are they kind of getting to the same point as in someone could work on this?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think one thing that we've been trying to do is break up the total amount of work into smaller tasks in order to evolve an issue. And I can imagine being able to just reproduce the issue and capture what I did to reproduce the issue. But I didn't necessarily go into, well, how would you fix it? Which I suspect might be part of what would get that bug into ready for dev, would be at least some kind of conversation around, even if it's like, oh, well, this would obviously be fixed in such and such way. But often it's not obvious. So I feel like that elaboration, that contextualization of like, okay, here's the problem, like what would be a potential solution, that the ready for dev piece in my mind would be about that second half.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess what I'm trying to minimize for is like overhead. And that's where I think try to reduce the number of labels or anything as much as possible. So I'm wondering, like, under what circumstances would you search for the can be replicated condition? Like, I'm looking for what value this label provides.
Oh, that's so good. One thing I think of is like visually. So if I see bug and I don't see can be replicated, like boom, like has this been replicated? Oh yeah, and this one has. In fact, it's there's a piece of it. Yeah, this one's pretty fuzzy, but like this is even like getting close to, well, we can fork this off and do some better documentation work. Huh. So I didn't see anywhere in here where somebody directly reported that they replicated this, but I mean that's the flip side of what you're talking about, which is, well, if you create a lot of stuff, the things like if you have to like all these process steps, then we don't do one, then that is also noise. Oh, well, there's this, and I think this happened in February, so I'll just add that.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to try out these things. I'm just trying to be conscious of, again, kind of thinking about a new person joining the project, and we say like, this is how you manage our backlog. Right now, it might be a little intimidating.
Yeah, especially if when you start off, you're like, just learn these 20 labels. What the heck? Yeah, it's a great point. Anybody else have thoughts on that particular topic? Like, yeah, does this seem like this today, just right now, what you know and have experienced? Is this a useful label? This can be replicated.
Well, one thing I was thinking is this is likely done by the community pair, or the label would be added by the community pair. They're able to replicate the issue.
Mm-hmm.
And then a reviewer or approver would come in and review that bug further, maybe Carvel accept it. So it's kind of like almost a signal that the community pair has looked at the bug and is able to verify it, so that the reviewer and approver, they don't need to take that step again.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that could easily be done by a comment saying, I'm able to reproduce this issue, such and such. So I think it serves a purpose, but I think that purpose could easily be taken care of in a different way.
Like a comment.
So here's an idea, and maybe I'm jumping to solutioning too quickly, but like what I view the conditions to be helpful for is knowing what is the state of this like bug or issue, like how mature, I guess, is it? Something could consider would be like adding something to the issue template where you would have like these checkboxes, like if I'm following a bug, then like there are these different things like can be replicated. I don't know what the other things would be, like identified solution or something like that. But that way, at a high level, you could just kind of see like what state is this in, which I think is what the conditions achieve that value right now.
Yeah, interesting. So would this be like in the template, there's a section that's like maintainers only, like office only? It's like the
Maybe
and
I've seen this for proposals before to show like what state a proposal is in.
Because I might imagine that like if I'm reporting a bug and I see a checkbox and it says has it been replicated, I'm like, yeah, I just did. I don't know. I guess interesting. So you were just thinking just more generally. You weren't thinking specifically like manage workflow just for maintainers in the issue. You're just saying, hey, let's just what are the things that need to happen to mature this issue?
Yeah, kind of just thinking out loud as well. So just trying to surface ideas and see if there are ways where we can just make things a bit more streamlined.
Yeah, because some of these labels do feel like that, right? Like there's this action that has been taken on it. Cool. Well, maybe we'll let that one percolate. Sounds like there's an opportunity to try some of this out a little. Okay. That's just a to-do. And this is adding another label. The suggestion here was there's greater context in what's available on the issue. Conversation might be needed. Sure, I was pointing out, well, if you've marked these things, then hopefully the context is there that is broadly present. So I'm not sure why you would need that. And then he also noted that perhaps it'd be helpful to clarify the difference between what unprioritized backlog and prioritized backlog means. What does that mean to folks today? The difference between unprioritized and prioritized.
Just from my perspective, prioritized means that it's actively being worked on, and unprioritized means it'll be worked on, but it hasn't been assigned yet.
What does it?
I don't know
What
if
does it
that's
mean?
accurate.
Yeah. What does it mean for you, Aaron?
For me, it's planned and unplanned. So prioritized work is work that we generally have planned, whereas unprioritized is we know it's a thing, but we're not planning to do it. Again, as the maintainer team, at least right now.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I see it as prioritized is currently approved by product and will be worked on in the next 3 months, in the next quarter. And unprioritized is unlikely to be gotten to for us to get to in the next 3 months.
Okay. Yeah, that's making sense to me. And as a matter of fact, I wonder if it's helpful to even think of it as a bit of a spectrum, that the things at the top of the unprioritized backlog are the most likely candidates for things that would make it into the prioritized backlog. That it's prioritized within the unprioritized that it's like ranked, so that the things at the bottom are things that's like, if you want to make sure you can pick up something that's valuable and useful and not very likely the team's going to want to get at it soon, you could pull from here. But if you want to understand what the team might likely be up to next, the stuff toward the top would be those kinds of things. But because it's not a commitment, things may change. Yeah, what do you think about that, Aaron?
Yeah, I think, like, I know we have done some work to kind of relatively prioritize these items within the unprioritized backlog. I guess, like, the disclaimer I do just always try to present as, like, we call it the unprioritized backlog. So there's no promises there. Like, once it's over to prioritized is when I feel like it's actually planned. But yeah, you could consider the things that are in there at least like relatively stack ranked within, like, relative to one tool. Maybe I wouldn't consider them to be stack ranked across tools.
Mm. Mm-hmm. So if I put on a particular filter, so if I just look at, I've been having trouble with ZenHub, like, there we go. So just looking at image package, likely these are ranked within image package.
I think so, but yeah, I would rely on people that are organizing this more. Which for, like, image package, I felt like was Helen and Joao and Dennis. But I would say roughly yes.
Okay, that's something that we could aspire to in terms of improving the clarity of that column, are taking a run at. So like for YTT, for example, there's 57 issues. Be great if there were nothing toward the bottom that was a likely candidate to be picked up by the maintainers, and vice versa. That, like, the things at the top weren't actually very likely to be picked up by the maintainer teams.
I have a question. If there is someone from the community that decides they want to work on something in this unprioritized backlog and they're actively working on it, does it then get moved to in progress? Like, what lane does it get moved to, if at all? And how do they do that? Do they do it themselves, or does someone from the maintainers have to move it out of unprioritized, or does it stay there?
Yeah, if you know the answer, feel free, Carrie.
I did look this up a while back. If they open a PR, it will show up in the in progress column. The issue needs to be linked to that PR to move to the same column, however, and I am not sure if a maintainer has to do that or not. But basically, if you open a PR, it will show up in the in progress column.
Okay, so it sounds like that might be something that we should add whenever we're moving it to the contributor markdown, about like if you are interested in contributing to these particular issues, PR will be open and issue must be linked to PR to be moved from out of unprioritized.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if just anyone can link things. Like that's something I'm not sure about, but generally if someone wants to claim, like work on an issue, I'd say just talk to us about it and we can assign that issue to you and move it to in progress for you if they can't.
Cool. All right. I see that we're basically at time. There were a few more other comments here, but I feel like we've been able to sort of clarify a number of things, get some feedback on how it's going so far.
Yeah, it sounds like this might be something that we just continuously bring up in the community meeting and office hours, ongoing discussion, making sure it's working for everybody. All right, so with that, thank you everyone for joining today for this week's edition of the Carvel office hours. We meet every second and fourth Thursday of the month at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. We also have our community meetings every Monday. That's also at 11:30 a.m. Pacific time. If you found that this particular discussion item is something that you have experience in, feedback on, we would love to hear from you, whether that be you attending one of those options live, the community meeting or the office hours, or you can provide feedback directly to the team within the Kubernetes Slack workspace in the Carvel channel. We would love to hear some outside perspective on this and help the team with this process, and or anything else you may need help with. We're eager to engage with folks from the community. So with that, we look forward to hearing from you. Bye. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.